So, okay, students, welcome to today's discussion. So, today we are going to discuss two subtopics. First one is sources of constitution making process, and second one is type of constitution. If you have a curriculum in your hand, then you can see these two subtopics are incorporated in Unit 2. So today we are going to talk these two subtopics, maybe 45 minutes each topic. So let's talk from the first sources of constitution drafting or making process. So probably you know every country they have only one constitution. Why this is difference means I talked to you with you at the beginning and in the first class. The law, then constitution can guarantee our fundamental rights. This the agreement between citizen and the state. It has classified powers, responsibilities of the executives, parliamentarian, judiciaries, and constitution bodies. But what are the major concern when they are going to draft a constitution? Is our concern. What kind of sources are most important to consider during the drafting of constitution? So definitely many writers, and particularly constitution experts, they agree during the drafting of constitution or during the making a constitution, drafters either they are the representatives of people, they are member of committee, or they are member of appointed by a supreme power. There are different models of drafting process. I mean, in the name of committee, sometimes we call constitution assembly, sometimes it's called committee, sometimes called is representative of people or someone else. But what are the basic foundations, I mean, considerable areas during the making of constitution? So, so constitution itself is a roadmap. It's not law, general acts, general laws, because constitution can't draft like other acts. Because constitution confers powers to make a law, who exercise such authorities, powers, and what are the procedure it has been guaranteed in the constitution for other laws. But constitution itself is the supremacy and supreme law. Therefore, it's very difficult, very complicated, and very serious matters to draft a constitution. Okay, so I'm telling you, constitution drafting process is very complicated, and it's not easy task because probably those who are drafted the constitution, then we say they are the founder of constitution, they are the father of nations. Who are the father of nations means those who contributed to draft the constitution, because they show us the roadmap of the country, roadmap of our nations. It's try to incorporate integratory prosperity, more democratic, and our future plan of the nations. Therefore, constitution drafting process itself is very complicated. अथवा नेपालीमा भन्नुपर्दा संविधान मस्यौदा अरू कानुनहरू जस्तो होइन। संविधान मस्यौदा गर्दाखेरि त्यो थिङ्क ट्याङ्करहरू चाहिन्छ, उनीहरूले ड्राफ्ट गरेको मस्यौदाले चाहिँ हामी राज्य यस्तो बनाउँछौँ, हाम्रो देश यस्तो हुन्छ, हामी यो शासन प्रणालीहरू इन्क्लुड गर्छौँ, हामीले चाहिँ कार्यपालिकालाई यो अधिकार, व्यवस्थापिकालाई यो अधिकार, न्यायपालिकालाई यो अधिकार, अनि हामी चाहिँ अरू संवैधानिक अङ्गहरूलाई यो अधिकार दिन्छौँ अनि त्यसमा चाहिँ नागरिक र राज्यबिचको सम्झौतालाई इन्क्लुड गर्छौँ। यी सबै कुरोहरू चाहिँ उनीहरूले थिङ्क ट्याङ्क दे आर द एक्सपर्ट्स। We give them founder member of this country. अथवा तपाईको के भने संविधान जुन कन्ट्रीमा बनायो त्यो ड्राफ्ट गर्ने व्यक्तिहरूलाई चाहिँ के भनिन्छ भने राष्ट्र निर्माताहरू हुन् भनेर भनिन्छ। सिम्पली फादर अफ द नेसन बिल्डिङ त्यसरी हुन्छ। अरू कानुनहरू कसरी बन्ने, कसले बनाउने, त्यसको प्रक्रिया के हो भन्ने कुरोहरू चाहिँ संविधानले नै आउटलाइन गर्दै हुन्छ, ग्यारेन्टेड गर्दै हुन्छ। तर संविधान आफै कसरी बनेको भन्ने कुरोहरू चाहिँ संविधान सभा मार्फत हुन सक्छ, कुनै अब समूह मार्फत हुन्छ, कुनै विशेषज्ञको समूहले दिएको हुन सक्छ, वा कुनै शक्तिले गठन गरेको कुनै कमिटीले दिएको हुन सक्छ। त्यो फर्मेसन सब कमिटीको हुन्छ। त्यो विभिन्न मोडलबाट संविधान जारी भएको हुन्छ। अब तपाईहरु very familiar probably we have adopted our constitutions through the Constitutional Assembly. Then we formulated assembly based on our representatives. The 601 members were elected from our board, either directly, indirectly, but Constitutional Assembly is our drafter. They drafted the present constitution. So अब त्यो तपाईलाई भनिसकेपछि अब अरु एक्ट भन्दा चाहिँ constitution drafting process is quite complicated, and definitely international communities, they have been watching your activities, and many pressure groups, they try to introduce their interests in your constitution, in here I mean हाम्रो संविधान अथवा जुनसुकै कन्ट्रीमा पनि संविधान मस्यौदा गर्दैछ भने त्यो इन्टरनेशनल कम्युनिटीज को ध्यानै त्यहाँ गएको हुन्छ, because they want to see what kind of constitution they are going to produce. Okay, what kind of political system, what kind of power sharing, what kind of government formation structure, what kind of judiciary, what kind of citizens' rights, all things are subject during the drafting of constitution.
Excuse me, sir.
Sorry.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
जस्तो अध्यादेश जारी गरेपछि त्यसलाई चाहिँ कन्स्टिट्युसनमा इन्क्लुड हुन्छ कि हुँदैन सर? त्यो
अध्यादेश कसले जारी गर्ने, कसरी जारी गर्ने भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ संविधानले दिएको हुन्छ।
त्यो चाहिँ कन्स्टिट्युसनमा इन्क्लुड हुँदैन?
हैन, कन्स्टिट्युसनले नै के ग्यारेन्टेड गरेको छ नि, which authority shall have a power to announce ordinance भन्ने कुरोहरु चाहिँ संविधानले लेखेको हुन्छ। तर अध्यादेश आफैमा संविधान होइन, तर अध्यादेश जारी गर्नलाई चाहिँ संविधानले पावर दिएको हुन्छ। भन्नु खोजेको के भने अरु लहरु, संविधानहरु, सरकार कसरी बन्छ, न्यायाधीश कसरी नियुक्ति हुन्छ, कानुन कसरी बन्छ, त्यो सबै कुरोहरु चाहिँ संविधानले दिएको हुन्छ। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि दिस इज द रोड म्याप अफ आवर नेशनल बिल्डिङ प्रोसेस। रोड म्याप अफ नेशनल बिल्डिङ प्रोसेस। How you are going to make a law means you need to be follow the procedure of the constitution. Executive power के हो भन्ने कुरो चाहिँ constitution shall give you that power. So you need to be considered. If you don't follow the constitutional guidelines, it means you are going to fall down from that grounds. अथवा अब तपाई के भने माउ कानुन बनाउनलाई चाहिँ के सोर्सहरु चाहिन्छ भन्ने कुरो चाहिँ हाम्रो विषयवस्तु हो। माउ कानुन, why I am talking with you, माउ कानुन means सुप्रिम क्लोज हुन्छ, कसैले चाहिँ सुपरमेसी ल भन्छ, कसैले कन्स्टिट्युसन भन्छ, कसैले ग्राउन्ड नर्म्स भन्छ, कसैले चाहिँ they use different terms, but things is that is the center point. Constitution itself is a center point. Always constitution is remain at the center, and all laws are surrounded the constitution. So अब संविधान बनाउँदा चाहिँ के कुरोहरु ध्यान दिनुपर्छ? What are the sources of constitution making process? This is the today's discussion. Okay, let's come to the. I have some PowerPoints. Okay, okay.
Sir, म एउटा कुरा सोधिहाल्छु है सर। हामीले सेपरेसन अफ पावर गर्यौं र सर?
कसरी भाइ?
सेपरेसन अफ पावर एउटा टपिक थियो नि सर, फर्स्ट युनिटमै छ सर। त्यो हामी पछि गर्ने हो कि? के
Oh,
गर्ने
I
चाहिँ
बीचमा आउँछु. I think because of the time constraints, it's too complicated. Too complicated. I mean, it does not cover long period. Therefore, I will cover later, or maybe when we will have a time, then I will discuss with you. It could I will discuss with you maybe 5 or 10 minutes about the principle of Montesquieu. Okay, this principle propounded by Montesquieu, and he argued if power remains in the one person or one institution's lawmaking and law interpretation and enforcement, it creates autocracy. Therefore, separations of power is, according to law, it should be guaranteed in the constitution or in the supreme law or in the ground norms भन्ने कुरोहरू अथवा सेपरेसन्स अफ पावर र चेक एन्ड ब्यालेन्स सँगसँगै जानुपर्छ भन्ने छ त्यसलाई पछि हामी छलफल गर्छौँ डोन्ट वरी आई विल टेल यु तर के भने मन्टेस्क्यूको थ्योरीमा सेपरेसन्स अफ पावरको चेक एन्ड ब्यालेन्स त्यो सेपरेसन अफ पावरको जस्ट लुक फर मन्टेस्क्यू प्रिन्सिपल ही प्रोपाउन्डेड दिस प्रिन्सिपल देयरफोर ही अलवेज एडभोकेट every institution they should be guaranteed their authority, they should be given very limited power, limited in terms of according to law दिनुपर्छ भन्ने कुरोहरु but let's talk today's discussion. Okay, okay, I have just discussed with you about the 5 minutes. Constitution itself is a progressive document and a roadmap of the country. I already told why this is the progressive and roadmap of the country. It should keep alive, then perform missions of the constitution. Because constitution needs to be mobilized, constitution needs to be alive. In our hand, we have a responsibility to enforce the constitution and get the mission of the constitution. The drafters are visionary or founder father of nations. So they can agree for draft the constitution and give to their generation to follow such guidelines. Okay, I have finished the discussion with you. They are the visionary in terms of what kind of do you expect about your country. That the constitution is a reflection of exports vision, visionaries ideas, founder fathers ideas. अथवा तपाईको संविधान भनेको के भने तपाईको राष्ट्र कस्तो बनाउने, कसरी जिने, त्यहाँको नागरिकको हकहरु के हुन्छ, त्यहाँको कार्यपालिका व्यवस्थापिकाहरु कसरी फर्मेसन हुन्छ, यी सबै कुरोहरु चाहिँ visionaries, founder fathers, they can draft, they can agree, they can include in our constitution. र त्यो कुरोहरु चाहिँ हामीले alive राख्नुपर्छ. We should be keep alive. A dead constitution भयो भने definitely it does not properly function. Or might be another part, the agitators stand off and kind of violations might be started. Because every dissatisfactory groups, they want to ensure their interest in their in the country's constitution. The visionaries भनेको के हो भनेदेखि हाम्रो राष्ट्र चाहिँ यस्तो हुन्छ है भन्ने कुरो चाहिँ देखाउन सक्नु पर्यो संविधानमा. Look at, we have the roadmap, we have a map, what kind of country we have right now. They were international communities, they always prefer to read the constitution instead of other laws. They prefer to read your constitution, your country's policies. Constitution itself is a document of policies. Okay, we agreed. So, your first you can see Constitution itself is a progressive document and a roadmap of the country. It should keep alive, then perform missions of the Constitution. And second sentence, drafter are visionary or founder father of a nation. So they can agree for draft the Constitution and give to their generation to follow such guidelines. Okay? तपाईले हेर्नु होला 1950 को Indian Constitution, 1787 को Constitution, still they keep alive such documents. They believe that is their national building process. They believe this is our gift given by our founder father. They are visionaries. They are our national builders. त्यो कन्स्टिट्युसनले त्यो दिनुपर्छ तर त्यो चाहिँ के भने ड्युरिङ द ड्राफ्टिङ पिरियड we need to be considered these are the important for us होला अब हाम्रो सभा अब संविधान सभाले गर्नु सक्यो सकेन that's the different part you can analyze this by yourself but my concern is just talk with you about the philosophy conceptual background these are the important त्यही भएर संविधान मस्यौदाकारहरू को हुन् भन्ने कुरो चाहिँ it comes in the history's book we need to be kept their name in the history because they are the founder father so अब अर्को मैले त्यहाँ सेकेन्ड लाइनमा छ another maybe this is the negative approach frequently change a constitution means instability immature violated established traditions practices and principles so why I use these words frequently changing a constitution means we are creating instability we are violating our own established principles we are not sure what kind of constitution we are going to adopt we are going to enforce we are going to carry on so therefore many countries they don't prefer to draft again their constitution but when they draft once a constitution they can continue they can carry on this constitution from generation to generation definitely the world's oldest constitution is the American Constitution and the very new constitution we are also infant constitution do you understand about the infant I mean child constitution immature constitution we have just passed 4 years so it means we are very young I mean I don't say young we are very infant I mean we need to pay more time to become maturity to enforce this constitution at the moment I'm very sure we are at the very beginning stage to enforce the constitution तर frequently constitution draft गरिराख्नु भनेको चाहिँ immaturity instability we are ignoring our practices we are disregarding our tradition custom our political system so
excuse me sir सर तपाईकोबाट लास्ट धेरै हल्ला आइरहेछ तपाईले बोलेको सुनिरहेको छैन हामीसँग
कस्तो हल्ला आइरहेछ भाइ मेरोबाट
खै को बोलिरहेछ छैन को बोलिरहेको थाहा छैन
ए अहिले चाहिँ कस्तो छ
अहिले चाहिँ हजुरको ब्याकग्राउन्डमा को लाइक अर्को स्पिकर पनि छ जस्तो आइरहेछ सर लाइक अहिले कम भयो सर अहिले ठिक छ
I don't know. म चाहिँ यहाँ छु अब अरू कोठामा अरू क्लास लिँदैछन् उनीहरूको आफ्नो आफ्नो छ could be disturbance अब नेटलाई सदुपयोग गर्नु नेटलाई सदुपयोग गर्दाखेरि अब सबैले गर्नु
हजुरको पोइन्ट नि हो सर हैन हेडफोन लाउँदा ठिक होला सर हजुरले हो बेस्ट सर हजुर हेडफोन्स लाग्छ हैन अनि हजुरको माइकबाट मजाले सुनिन्छ नि है
इयरफोन ओके आई विल फाइन्ड इट
हस् थ्यांक यू सर
इयरफोन छ हामीसँग इयरफोन छ हुन्छ अहिले कहाँ छ भाइ
I can drink water. Where is it?
सर बोलेको सुनिएको छैन जस्तो लाग्यो सर खै मेरोमा मात्र हो कि
आवाजै आएन
त्यो हेडफोनको माइकमा प्रब्लम
सुनेको छैन सर सरले हामीले भनेको चाहिँ सुन्नु भएको छ
त्यहाँ डबल ज्याक पोइन्ट हुन्छ अर्को ज्याक पोइन्टमा छिराइ हेर्नु नि सर एकचोटि
Okay, I will follow the same practices what I have been doing just 10 minutes before. Okay. So I try to convey my voice from this instrument. Okay, then if you have any problems, let me know. I will try to change this modality. Okay, so sources of constitution drafting or making process itself is complicated, but frequently drafting of constitution itself is a setback, itself is an immature practice, itself is a disregarding our practices, our custom, our traditions. Therefore, we need to understand, once we draft a constitution, then it makes us more integrated, it makes us more prosperity, it makes us more happy. अथवा त्यही हो भने पटक पटक संविधान मस्यौदा गर्नु सकिँदैन, पटक पटक संविधान मस्यौदा गर्नु भनेको आफूले आफूलाई होच्याउनु, आफूले आफूलाई धोका दिनु, इमेच्योर डिसिजन हो, इन्स्टेबिलिटी हो, अथवा हामीले आफैले स्थापना गरेको सिद्धान्तहरूलाई चाहिँ अवमूल्यन गर्नु हो। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि संविधान मस्यौदा गर्दाखेरि धेरै कुरोहरू ख्याल गर्नुपर्छ, यो सिद्धान्त हो। ओके, then let's see third point. Drafting a constitution means creating a national building process, and national integrity, prosperity come together, share everything equally, rule of a country, and lead for developments. So, किन constitution draft गर्नु पर्यो भन्दाखेरि national building process. Look at this. We have this constitution. It says we come together and build our nation. Okay. National integrity, prosperity come together, all resources share equally, and rule of country and lead for development. Therefore, we need to be constitution, and we need to be draft a good constitution. Good constitution. So these are the basic things to understand why we are drafting the constitution. Means you need to understand these things. Okay, we are going to draft the constitution. It means we are going to national building process. National building process. Constitution means this is the policy document. We ordinary people, we sovereign people agree to accept, to follow this constitution, because this is our best document to rescue us from this kind of hurdles, this kind of setback, this kind of problems. So for these reasons, our founder, our drafters, including being a citizens, we have also responsibility to make a good constitution, to make a good, appropriate, and more consensus document. So now, what are the major guidelines? What are the major sources during the draft of constitution, during the making of constitution? This is the important. Drafter should know these things. अब यो मौका सधैँ आउँदैन संविधान बनाउन अब तपाईले यति भने चाहिँ बुझ्नुभयो अब ड्राफ्टरहरूले के विचार गर्नुपर्छ र के केलाई सोर्स मानिन्छ भन्ने कुरो चाहिँ देन लेट्स कम टु देम भेरी इजी प्रिभियस कन्स्टिट्युसन all constitution laws court precedents three things we have a more then let's talk at the why previous constitution are important okay a drafter should need to understand what provisions incorporated in the previous constitution. You know, progressive means when you are going to draft new constitution, then every time it makes you need to be produce more advanced constitution. It means good features of the previous constitution should be borrowed from there and incorporated in the new constitution. Previous constitution, suppose spirit and values of constitution. अथवा हामीले अरु एक भन्दा संविधान मस्यौदा गर्नु अलिक अलगको संविधान मस्यौदा गर्दाखेरि यो संविधान भन्दा मस्यौदा गर्दै गरेको संविधान भन्दा अघिल्लो संविधानहरुलाई हेर्नु पर्ने हुन्छ त्यसका राम्रा कुरो फिचर्सहरुलाई ल्याउनु पर्ने हुन्छ त्यसका विशेषताहरुलाई ल्याउनु पर्ने हुन्छ संविधान प्रोग्रेसिभ हो ड्राफ्टरहरुले के गर्नुपर्छ भने हामीले बनाएको संविधान चाहिँ अघिल्लो भन्दा यो बेटर छ बेस्ट हुन्छ भन्ने कुरो चाहिँ एस्युरेन्स गर्नुपर्छ इट मीन्स ड्राफ्टर्स दे हैव द कसको अलिक ठुलो आयो त कसको त्यो कत्रो आइरहेछ शेखर So means drafters should consider that previous constitution, we are drafting more better than previous constitution. More better than previous constitution. But good features, acceptable features, we are borrowed from the previous constitution to present constitution. अथवा पहिलाको संविधान भन्दा मोर प्रोग्रेसिभ हुन्छ यो चाहिँ राम्रो हुन्छ राम्रो बनाउनु पर्छ भनेर न हामीले we are going to draft new constitution. Therefore previous constitution are one of the most important sources of the constitution drafter. Suppose fundamental rights. Every time we need to address new fundamental rights. New fundamental rights. Look at it. In 1990 constitution, we have only 11 fundamental rights. In the interim constitution, we have near about 20 fundamental rights. But at the present moment, in the 2015 constitution, we have 31 fundamental rights. Directive principles. Why we introduce new constitution means we are going to introduce more progressive, more advanced, more reliable, and more integrated constitution. It means previous constitution are also very important source, and this one is more advanced, more integrated, and more acceptable constitution than previous ones. Directive principles, basic common established practices. What kind of practices we used to in the past, we are going to incorporate in this constitution, such as the rule of law, independence of judiciary, people's representative. Every times. अथवा तपाईं यति मात्र बुझ्नुस् कि नयाँ संविधान हामी किन बनाउँदै छौं भन्दाखेरि पहिलाको पूर्णता भएन पहिलाको संविधानले चाहिँ तपाईको के गर्यो भने न्याय दिन सकेन नेशनल बिल्डिङलाई सहयोग गरेन अथवा पिपलको रिप्रेजेन्टेटिभ इन्स्योर गर्न सकेन अथवा मौलिक अधिकारहरू कम स्वीकार गर्यो व्हाटएभर why we are drafting new constitution means definitely we are going to produce more better far better and good than previous ones. Therefore drafters should always consider the previous constitution are the sources of constitution making process. First things. And second one, all constitution laws. All constitution laws. Definitely some constitution laws are already drafted, I mean already enforced. Which laws are more better than Constitution, probably more better than Constitution. Look at this. We have a Civil Rights Act and 2012 होला मलाई नागरिक ऐन भनेको 2012 सालमा आएको थियो. Every constitution they incorporated that provision. तर अहिले चाहिँ तपाईको नागरिक ऐन चाहिँ खारेज गर्यो त्यो सबै तपाईको संविधान आइसकेपछि. तर हाम्रो 5 वटा विगतका संविधानहरूले त्यो नागरिक ऐनको अधिकार चाहिँ त्यो जहिले पनि इन्कर्पोरेट गरेको थियो बिकज that laws was drafted based on the UN Human Rights Declaration. अथवा मौलिक अधिकारहरू के हो भन्ने कुरो त्यो नागरिक अधिकार ऐन थियो त्यो कुरोहरू चाहिँ कन्स्टिट्युसनले क्यारी अन गर्दै आएको थियो. All constitutional laws, right related acts, civil rights act, fundamental documents, all constitutional laws. I mean, I told you, I discussed with you about the constitution, constitutional laws and constitutionalism. Okay? Three things. अथवा संविधान, संवैधानिक कानुन र संविधानवाद भनेर हामीले पहिले छलफल गरेका छौं. संविधानवाद त तपाईको पछि एन्डमा आउने रिजल्ट हो. ड्राफ्टरहरूले राख्ने कुरो. तर संवैधानिक कानुनहरू भनेको चाहिँ such laws which has the part of constitution. Which are the part of constitution. For instance, I will give you one example. In Britain, they don't have a codified constitution, but they have a many constitutional laws. त्यस्ता कुरोहरू पनि सोर्सेस हुन्छ. कन्स्टिट्युसन लजहरू के छन् हाम्रोमा, हाम्रो प्र्याक्टिसेसहरू, हाम्रो कन्भेन्सन्सहरू, हाम्रो लजहरू, दे आर अल्सो सोर्सेस अफ कन्स्टिट्युसन. एन्ड कोर्ट प्रेसिडेन्ट्स. कोर्ट प्रेसिडेन्ट्स मिन्स नजिरहरू, कोर्टले इस्टाब्लिस गरेको राइट्सहरू. जुडिसियल इन्टरप्रिटेसन, वाट काइन्ड अफ पोलिटिकल सिस्टम यु आर गोइङ टु इन्ट्रोड्युस. Directive orders. Okay, probably court can order the government, you should this and that. Okay, because this order made by court. Established principles. Just to established principles, court directives, judicial interpretation. Why I'm talking with this means court can interpret many laws based on the international documents, because court is always more active, more progressive than executive and legislature. अथवा न्यायपालिका चाहिँ एक स्टेप कार्यपालिका र व्यवस्थापिका भन्दा अगाडि हुन्छ in order to protect our human rights, our freedom, and try to ensure dignity of citizen and try to restrict the government performance, prevent to move ahead the government. Just to look at this, first time we introduced consumer rights, and in 1990 Constitution, first time we introduced environmental right, and the present context we introduce social justice rights. These all things are already court has propounded principle. अथवा प्रेसिडेन्स भने के भने न्यायपालिकाले व्याख्या गरेको कुरोहरु चाहिँ आउने सुप्रिम लमा चाहिँ हामी राख्छौं अथवा त्यस्ता कुरोहरु चाहिँ we need to be introduced in our constitution भन्ने कुरो हुन्छ. जस्तो तपाईलाई एउटा एक्जाम्पल दिउँ, फन्डामेन्टल तपाईको यो कन्ज्युमर राइट्स चाहिँ कन्ज्युमर राइट्स कोर्टले स्टेटलाई के अर्डर गर्यो भने आई एम टकिङ विथ यु अबाउट द Nepalese practice. Court has ordered the executives or the legislature, you should draft consumer related laws within 6 months, within 1 year. But at that time, consumer rights is not part of the constitution. अथवा consumer rights हाम्रो अदालतले चाहिँ के व्याख्या गर्यो भने कन्ज्युमर राइट्सलाई चाहिँ मानव अधिकारसँग जोडेर हेर्न सकिन्छ. कन्ज्युमर राइट्स चाहिँ आज विश्वव्यापीको अधिकार हो. कन्ज्युमर राइट्स चाहिँ एउटा मानवसँग अपरिहार्य रूपमा चाहिने अधिकार हो. त्यो कुरोहरु ल बनाएर इन्फोर्स गर्नु भनेर कोर्टले चाहिँ अर्डर गर्यो कार्यपालिका र व्यवस्थापिकालाई. तर त्यो बेलासम्म चाहिँ हाम्रो के हो भने हाम्रो संविधानमा चाहिँ कन्ज्युमर राइट्स चाहिँ मौलिक अधिकार हो भनेर थिएन. But when we draft new constitution, at that time we introduce consumer rights is our fundamental rights. How the presidents are become the part of the constitution, how the court presidents are essential part of the constitution means you can understand from these things. Previous constitutions, because we borrow these principles, spirit, values from our previous practices. Okay, all constitutional laws. Look at this: civil rights acts, right-related acts, fundamental documents. We borrow these principles from that law and we incorporate it in our law, in our supreme law. Similarly, court precedent. अदालतले यस्तो यस्तो व्याख्या गरेको हुनाले हामीले चाहिँ हाम्रो नयाँ लमा प्रोग्रेसिभ, मोर एडभान्स, मोर कन्सेन्सस, मोर नेशनल बिल्डिङ प्रोसेसको लमा चाहिँ हामीले हालेको छौँ. And these are the foundations to understand drafters by drafters. अथवा मस्यौदाकारहरूले कस्तो कस्तो कुरोहरू छ त्यहाँनिर संविधान यी कुरोहरू हुनुपर्छ. Okay, let's come to the more. There are three more. Experts' opinion, one of the major things. Constitution conventions, political agreements, international trends. Expert opinions. During the period of the making of Constitution, there are hundreds of seminars, hundreds of interactions programs, hundreds of opinions forwarded by experts. Probably during that time you were at the grade 6, 7, 8.
Excuse me, sir. So what is sir? हजुरको स्क्रिन फुल बार दिन्छ न त्यो प्रेजेन्टेसनको.
ए अल्लाह.
हजुरको प्रेजेन्टेसनलाई चाहिँ.
हैन म यो बनाइदिन्छु.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, welcome to the expert opinions. Because one of the major things, what kind of form of government you are going to introduce, what kind of powers are going to confer to your judiciary, your constitution bodies, these all things are important things. And the drafters, definitely all drafters, they are not expert, maybe they are not well aware in that particular areas, because a person cannot gain expertise from every sectors. Therefore, experts' opinions are one of the major things. National, international, they are from wherever, it doesn't make sense, but they give you opinion, expert opinion. Okay, national experts' opinion.
Excuse me, sir.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
प्रेसिडेन्ट जस्तो तपाईको यो ओबिटर डिक्टा पनि चाहिँ के ल मानिन्छ कि मानिदैन?
जस्तो कसरी बुझ्या छ भाइले ओबिटर डिक्टा?
ओबिटर डिक्टा हजुरले अहिले भर्खर भन्नुभयो यो के रे इन्टरनेशनल ओपिनियन्स अनि अरूहरूको पनि ओपिनियन भ्यूजहरू त्यो अनुसारले चाहिँ हामीले लिएको छौं.
And just to भाइले अझै क्लियर गरेको, I am bit confused. You are talking obiter dicta, local standee. These are the. How can you are going to explain to us? I mean, including your friends.
Once you may make us understand by your own ideas.
Okay, obiter dicta. This is the part of during the writing or decisions of court case. Obiter dicta, residency, these are the particularly used in the court case. अथवा तपाईको नेपालीमा भन्नुपर्दाखेरि ठहर खण्ड र फैसला खण्ड भन्ने दुईटा हुन्छ. त्यो चाहिँ तपाईको अदालतको फैसलामा लेखिन्छ. अदालतले मुद्दा फैसला गर्दाखेरि तपाईको फैसला गर्नुभन्दा अगाडि चाहिँ न्यायाधीशको विवेकमा देखिने कुरोहरुलाई चाहिँ ओबिटर डिक्टा, उले चाहिँ यो कारणले गर्दाखेरि म यो कन्क्लुजनमा पुगे, दिस इज माइ डिसिजन भनेर जुन कुरोहरु तथ्यहरु उले त्यो एभिडेन्सहरु संकलन गर्छ त्यसलाई सिम्पली ओबिटर डिक्टा भनिन्छ. अनि त्यसको आधारमा चाहिँ म चाहिँ यो कारणले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ मैले यो फैसला गरे, त्यसले गर्दाखेरि भन्ने कुरो चाहिँ दिस इज द स्पेशली इन द कन्टेक्स्ट अफ राइटिङ अ जजमेन्ट बाइ जजेस.
सर अनि त्यसरी त्यो डिसिजन लियो भने त्यो त अनि रेशनल रेसिडेन्सी भयो हैन र?
अनि रेशनल रेसिडेन्सीमा ओबिटर डिक्टा त्यो तपाईको त्यो चाहिँ के ने फैसला लेख्दाखेरिको कार्यक्रम हो अथवा फैसला गर्दाखेरिको त्यो एउटा मेरो कन्क्लुजन भन्दा पहिला यो कारणले गर्दाखेरि आई एम गिभिङ दिस माई भर्डिक्ट भन्ने कुरो हो। जस्तो के हो भने प्रेसिडेन्ट भन्ने कुरो चाहिँ के हो भने सिम्पली यु हेभ टु डु दिस थिङ्स। प्रेसिडेन्ट मिन्स आई इस्टाब्लिस दिस प्रिन्सिपल्स। हाम्रो यो संविधान मेकिङ प्रोसेसमा चाहिँ देयरफोर I order the executives, I order the legislature, you have to make a law by 6 months, by 1 year, and notice to us. Consumer rights, environmental rights, women rights, maybe there are different type of rights, maybe Halia rights, maybe Badi rights, maybe Dalit rights, whatever. त्यस्ता कुरोहरु चाहिँ संविधान मस्यौदाकारहरूले पनि तिनीहरूलाई चाहिँ इन्क्लुड गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ। किन भन्दाखेरि वी अलवेज टक आवर कन्स्टिट्युसन इज फार मोर बेटर देन प्रिभियस वान। हामी नयाँ संविधान किन बनाउँदैछौँ भन्ने कुरो चाहिँ पहिला त्यो कन्सेप्ट चाहिँ ड्राफ्टरहरूले लिनु पर्यो। ड्राफ्टरहरूले त्यो लिइसकेपछि उनीहरूले चाहिँ त्यो सोर्स के हो भन्ने कुरोहरू चाहिँ दे निड टु बी कन्सिडर दिज आर द सोर्सेस। Okay, when we are going to draft the constitution, we need to be understand about the president of the court, president of the Supreme Court. त्यो नजिर भनेको के भने मस्यौदाकारहरूलाई हामीले यो राइट्सहरू चाहिँ कोर्टले इस्टाब्लिस गरेको छ यो पनि इन्क्लुड गर्नुपर्छ है भन्ने खालको उनीहरूको मनस्थितिमा हुनुपर्छ। हामीले रिग्रेसिभ कन्स्टिट्युसन बनाउँदैछौँ भने रिग्रेसिभ अथवा तपाईँको रेट्रोस्पेक्ट अथवा तपाईँको पुरानो भन्दा पनि वर्स किसिमको संविधान बनाउँदैछौँ भने डेफिनेटली द्याट काइन्ड अफ कन्स्टिट्युसन आर नट बी एप्लिकेबल एन्ड दे आर नट गोइङ टु इन्फोर्स इन यर सोसाइटी। Therefore, this is the progressive document. Constitution itself is progressive. अब तपाईको हाम्रो मुकेश भाइले भने जस्तो अर्को भाइले भने जस्तो भने त्यो मैले यो संविधान किन बनाए भन्दाखेरि त्यो हामीले त्यो मुद्दा फैसला गरे जस्तो हुँदैन के। त्यही भएर यो चाहिँ भिजनरी हुन्छ। यो चाहिँ के हुन्छ भने फाउन्डर फर नेशनल बिल्डिङ प्रोसेस हुन्छ। Why I am drafting, why I am giving this constitution means look at this. If you follow these guidelines, then definitely you are going to rescue from, you are going to healing your all problems. The संविधानको कुरो चाहिँ त्यो तपाईको के भने यो संविधानको आयु 5 वर्ष हो भन्ने भयो भने you don't need to be pay serious attention. But we are going to apply this constitution for our generation to generations. मैले भने नि तपाईलाई 250 वर्षको संविधान होला त्यो 1789 को 70 वर्षको संविधान इन्डियन कन्स्टिट्युसन होला। Because they always think our founder fathers, our visionary leaders, they drafted this constitution and they give us this document for national building process. They were, this is the different process than other laws. त्यही भएर तपाईले के हामीले बुझ्नु कि यो संविधान मस्यौदा चाहिँ अलि फरक प्रकारको हुन्छ। यसलाई चाहिँ तपाईको त्यो अरु एक्ट जस्तो सजिलो गरेर 4 जना मान्छे बसेर गरेर अनि संसदले हात उठाएर पास हुने होइन। त्यही भएर तपाईलाई थाहा होला यो संविधान मस्यौदा हाम्रो संविधान मस्यौदा गर्दाखेरि संविधान सचिवालयले चाहिँ तपाईको राय बुझाउनलाई चाहिँ तपाईको आह्वान गर्यो। विभिन्न लेखक तपाईको एक्सपर्टहरुको ओपिनियन लियो। तपाईको गाउँ गाउँमा सुझाव संकलन गर्यो। Why? These are the process. Because they want to share responsibility equally, as if like you are also founder. You are also founder because we accept this constitution. We stand these provisions. We firmly apply these provisions. त्यसले गर्दाखेरि तपाईको यो अब नजिरहरु पनि एउटा सोर्स हो। नजिरहरु पनि सोर्स हो। तर तपाईको के मुद्दाको र यो संविधान मस्यौदाको अलग हुन्। अब र हामीले एक्सपोर्ट ओपिनियन्सको सन्दर्भमा मुकेश भाइ अलिक अगाडि प्रश्न गरे कि मैले अलिक ढिलो बुझे दैट्स द डिफरेंट थिंग्स। तर एक्सपोर्ट्स ओपिनियन्समा कन्स्टिट्युसन इटसेल्फ इज द fixing by various issues. We are going to fix by various issues. त्यहाँ इकोनोमिक होला, त्यहाँ स्थानीय निकायको पावर होला, त्यहाँ ल पास गर्ने होला, त्यहाँनिर फन्डामेन्टल राइट्स होला, डाइरेक्टिभ प्रिन्सिपल्स होला, त्यहाँनिर चाहिँ त्यो एमेन्डमेन्ट प्रोसेस होला, त्यहाँनिर तपाईँको आयोगको कमिसन्स होला, त्यहाँनिर चाहिँ दिस इज द kind of strong house. When you look at the house, then you can see there is a door, there is a bathroom, there is a kitchen, there is a window, there is a light passing doors. त्यस्तै गरेर संविधान पनि त्यो सबै कुरोको मिश्रण हो। अनि मिश्रण गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ विभिन्न विशेषज्ञहरूको राय लिएर राखेको हुन्छ। विभिन्न विशेषज्ञको रायहरू इम्पोर्टेन्ट हुन्छ। अब त्यसमा नेसनल्स पनि हुन्छ, इन्टरनेसनल हुन्छ। अब त्यो मैले अस्ति पनि भने ड्युरिङ द ड्राफ्टिङ अफ द 2015 कन्स्टिट्युसन, आई मिन विक्रम सम्वत 2015 कन्स्टिट्युसन, एट द टाइम आइभर जेनिङ, ही वाज द ब्रिटिश सिटिजन, he came to Nepal and he gave his opinion what kind of parliamentary systems are popular in the world. He explained, he expressed his experiments, his experience, and based on it, our drafter can draft that they included in our constitution, probably. अब त्यसरी नै तपाईको हाम्रो ट्याक्स नीति कस्तो हुने, अब हाम्रो संघीयमा तपाईको शक्ति सन्तुलन कसरी गर्ने, चेक एन्ड ब्यालेन्स कसरी गर्ने, राष्ट्र प्रमुख कसरी नियुक्ति गर्ने, प्रदेश प्रमुख कसरी गर्ने, these things are we collected exports from exports opinion. Simply we call federal exports, judiciary exports, executive exports, parliamentarian exports, tax exports, human rights exports, equality exports. Then these are also sources of constitution drafting process. The exports are यत्रो ठुलो एरिया हुन्छ कि अब त्यो मैले भने नि तपाईको त्यो एउटा मात्रै ल होइन कि त्यो look at this, women, political, executive, judiciary, thematic committees, power sharing, form of government, tax provisions, local authority, province, federal exports, etc. They all are sources.
Sir, the experts qualifications.
No, qualification is different part. But you are free. Whatever you feel, you can express these things. Suppose whatever you are going to express, whatever you are going to suggest to the Constitution Assembly, to the Constitution drafting members, you are also expert in that respective areas. जस्तो के भने नेपालको सन्दर्भमा मैले तल लेखेको छु, we created 14 thematic committees and 11 are the subject related and 3 are the capacity building thematic committees in our this Constitution Assembly. त्यो हाम्रो सन्दर्भमा तर के भने एक्सपोर्ट कसलाई मान्ने भन्ने कुरोहरु चाहिँ अब त्यो चाहिँ तपाईको इज भेरी complicated. Tara, exports opinion, we collected exports opinion. We respect your opinion. Being you are a sovereign citizen of this country, we respect your opinion. You are also part of export. So suppose खेती गर्दा कसरी हुन्छ, किसानको भनाइ कसरी संकलन गर्ने, that is also part of exports. Because I have been doing the same farming for 20 years, therefore I have to suggestion government this and that. So export भनेको कुरो के हो भने उनीहरुको भूमिका पनि संविधान निर्माणको क्रममा अहम हुन्छ। त्यो कुरोहरु संविधान मस्यौदाकारहरुले लिनुपर्छ, मस्यौदाकारहरुले बुझ्नुपर्छ। Exports opinion, मैले भने forms of government, what kind of forms of government we are going to develop, अथवा भिजनरी कसरी हुन्छ भन्दाखेरि हामी त्यस्तो खालको बनाउँछौं। यसको मिशन भनेको चाहिँ यस्तो है भन्ने कुरो चाहिँ you need to be incorporated in your vision, in your foundation. अर्को constitution conventions and political agreement. Look at this. Constitution conventions भनेको चाहिँ तपाईको के भने ठुलठुलो सम्मेलनहरु हुन्छ, गरिन्छ. Leaders were invited and people forced them to make a commitment, political commitment, political agreement between former and new emerging power. Look at in our context. Maoist and the existing government, they agreed to demolish the 1990 constitution and draft a new constitution through Constitution Assembly. Agreement, constitution conventions, okay, confederations, They developed their constitution through confederations. In the US, I mean United States of American history. Look at this, the Indian practice. The assembly declared their constitution. Look at in our context. Constitution Assembly declare our constitution. Constitution Convention भनेको ठुल्ठुलो सम्मेलनहरू हुन्छ, नेशनल इन्टरनेशनल। तपाईको अहिले सुन्नु होला तपाईले सुडानमा कस्तो संविधान बनाउने भन्ने कुरोहरु चाहिँ जर्मनमा सम्मेलन हुन्छ, तपाईको अमेरिकामा सम्मेलन हुन्छ, तपाईको कोरियामा सम्मेलन गर्छ। What kind of constitution we are going to draft in our country? Look at this is our vision। जस्तो नेपालको बारेमा पनि तपाईको नेपालको कस्तो संविधान बनाउने भन्ने कुरोहरुमा चाहिँ इन्डियामा धेरै ठूला छलफलहरु भए, तपाईको युरोपमा भयो। मेनी आवर means representative, they got chance to went there and learn many things. They borrow some concept from their constitution conventions, national, international. A series of discussionहरु हुन्छ, त्यो गरिन्छ, because they always want to know about the fruit of that convention. Fruit. के चाहिँ राम्रो हो त्यो कन्भेन्सनको भन्ने कुरो, they should learn from that type of practices. Political agreements. Probably you heard many times 12 points agreement. It was held in India. Based on that, we developed this constitution. Based on that agreement, we quashed the previous constitution. These are also sources of constitution making process. 12 points agreement. Even today, it's very popular. 12 बुँदे सम्झौता, माओवादी र the existing government भारतले coordination गर्दियो. These are also sources of constitution. Okay. Besides this, look at, we have many.
के हो त्यो बुदा, त्यो 12 बुँदे भनेको के हो सर? मजाले के हो त्यो भने?
This is the your part.
My part?
Yeah, you have to look for what kind of provisions are there in 12 points agreement.
हैन त्यो हल्का फुल्का देखेछ एउटा हजुरले अलिकति भन्दिसन सर भन्नको लागि।
No, I have not prepared to present today 12 points agreement here. I'm just giving you picture. That is the sources of constitution making process. Simply, I'm not telling you about the point by point. Simply, 12 बुँदे सम्झौता, it means they are going to overthrow the autocratic king. That is the one reason. At that time, Gyanendra was king, and he suppressed the political parties who are in Nepal, who were in Nepal, and that parties, they thought they need to control the king. अथवा तपाईं के भने 12 बुँदे सम्झौता के हो भने यहाँ सरकारमा हुँदा हुँदै भन्दा पनि यहाँको त्यो अब ज्ञानेन्द्रले जुन प्ले गरेको रोलमा चाहिँ त्यो रिसमा चाहिँ अब गएर इन्डियामा गएर इन्डियाले कोर्डिनेट गर्दिएर गरेको सम्झौता हो। त्यो सम्झौताबाट चाहिँ के हो भने political parties and Maoists, they can join together, they could join together their force and start to uprising against the king. The 12 बुँदेको सम्झौताको एउटा के हो भने माओवादी र राजनीतिक दलहरु मिलेर चाहिँ यहाँको एटोक्रेटलाई ढाल्ने, अनि त्यसभन्दा पछाडी चाहिँ तपाईको संविधान सभाबाट संविधान बनाउने, अनि तपाईको समावेशी ल्याउने। There are very long story, but at least 12 points agreement is the foundations of present constitution. We have started from there. अथवा माओइस्टलाई तपाईको आतंककारीबाट चाहिँ अब खुल्ला राजनीतिक प्रतिनिधित्व गराउनको लागि we started from there, and definitely यस्तो खालको जहीँ पनि हुन्छ तपाईको के भने वर्ल्डमा जहीँ पनि हुन्छ तपाईको कन्स्टिट्युसन कन्भेन्सन। मैले भने नि भारतमा कतिवटा भयो, युरोपमा कतिवटा भयो, अहिले कुन देशमा संविधान बनाउँदैछ तिनीहरुको कन्स्टिट्युसन कन्भेन्सन नेशनल इन्टरनेशनल ठाउँमा हुन्छ। पोलिटिकल एग्रीमेन्टहरु हुन्छ। त्यो पोलिटिकल एग्रीमेन्ट्स जस्तो अब हाम्रो मधेसीसँग गरे होला, जनजातिसँग गरे होला, अब त्यो थुप्रोसँग गरे, दे आर अल्सो सोर्सेस अफ कन्स्टिट्युसन मेकिङ पावर। आज तपाईको कुनै दलले चाहिँ why we are not happy in this constitution भन्दाखेरि because the constitution has not incorporated their agreements provision. अब उपेन्द्र यादव पिन्दर किन मान्दैनन् होला भन्दाखेरि probably I am not sure because I don't know about their ideas. तर के भने सिम्पली सरकारले अथवा त्यतिखेरको संविधान सभा सरकारसँग गरेको सम्झौताहरू चाहिँ नयाँ संविधानले दिएन. Therefore, we are not happy in this constitution. We want to amend and incorporate that agreement provision भन्ने उनीहरुको होला. तर at least political agreements are also sources of constitution making process. मेरो कन्सर्न तपाईलाई सिम्पली बुझाउँदाखेरि त्यस्ता राजनीतिक दस्तावेजहरू संविधान मस्यौदाका तपाईको के हुन्छ भने सोर्सेसहरू हुन्छ. कन्स्टिट्युसन कन्भेन्सन मैले भने नि तपाईको नेपालमा कस्तो संविधान बनाउने भने अमेरिकामा संविधान भयो, युरोपमा भयो, तपाईको भारतमा भयो, त्यो हरेक कन्ट्रीमा हुन्छ. त्यही भएर के हुन्छ नि जहाँ जहाँ कमजोर छ त्यहाँ मात्र संविधान फ्रिक्वेन्टली बनाउँछ. जहाँ स्ट्रङ छ दे क्यान फाइन्ड आउट देयर सल्युसन विथिन दैट कन्स्टिट्युसन. तपाईले पछि छलफल गर्नुहुन्छ केशवानन्द भारती केस. Kesavananda Bharati case, it was very popular in the history of constitutional standing in India. Judges like we need to find out solution within this constitution. हामीले solution संविधानबाट निकाल्ने. We are not going to draft separate constitution. We can find all solution within our constitution because our founder father, our visionary leaders, they have already given us that authority. This is the very complicated matters, but probably you can understand these things. What I'm telling you, I'm not talking about the political way. I'm talking about the constitution way. Kanuni kuroru to political kuroru. This is not my subject, but my concern is about the constitutional way. Sometimes, therefore, difficult to understand this is the political or constitutional. Okay, त्यही भएर मैले कन्स्टिट्युसन कन्भेन्सन र पोलिटिकल एग्रीमेन्ट राखेको छु. राजनीतिक सम्मेलनहरू हुन्छ, राजनीतिक दलहरूले आफ्नो हामी यस्तो संविधान बनाउने भनेर आफ्नो दस्तावेजहरू क्रिएट गर्छन्. These all are sources of constitution making process. And international trends, other countries practices. Okay, त्यहाँको राम्रो व्यवस्थाहरू ल्याउन सकिन्छ. Influence of international laws during the drafting of constitution. Many international communities, they came, they visit and talk and they influence them. You should incorporate these things. Suppose secular state, suppose minority representative rights, suppose LGBT rights. These things they try to influence. Constitution, court precedents, international court precedents, seminar paper, advice by outside country, exports, opinion of exports, international trends. Because India was not happy when we promulgated this constitution. Look at this. If they are not going to support, then what kind of problems we faced in the past? International trend. So these things are very important to drafters, to constitution making process. तपाईको यी सबै कुरोहरुलाई मध्यनजर गरेर अनि हामीले संविधान बनाउनु पर्ने हुन्छ. संविधान मेकिङ प्रोसेसमा चाहिँ यी कुरोहरुलाई ध्यान गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ. International trends. We have borrowed many concepts from outside countries, other countries. So why we borrow that things means we feel that practices are best for us and we are going to enforce that things. We are going to apply that things. Therefore, we borrow independence of judiciary, judicial review, and many more, secular states, eliminations of death penalty. These things we borrow from outside of practices. जस्तो युरोपियनहरुले भन्यो होला तपाईले death penalty नराख्नु होला. Because Europeans, they are very strong in their country. They don't accept any kind of death penalty punishment. European influence paryo hola. Secular state ko paryo hola. Maybe every countries during that time they can play their very active roles to incorporate in the constitution provisions. त्यो अब definitely you are the lawyer and the law students, definitely you can feel or you can know bistarai. But I'm not telling today you can understand everything. And then you can analyze it from your side how our country, our constitution has developed these, I mean, incorporated these provisions based on it. अब यो हाम्रो संविधान सभामा चाहिँ कस्तो थियो भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ तपाईको 14 वटा थेमेटिक कमिटीहरू थियो, त्यसमध्ये 11 वटा विषयगत थिए, 3 वटा चाहिँ क्यापेसिटी इन्हान्समेन्ट भन्ने थियो। त्यो तपाई के थियो भने त्यो 11 वटाले चाहिँ विषयगत थियो, जस्तो न्यायपालिकाको, संघीय संरचनाको, तपाईको मौलिक अधिकारको, तपाईको अनि अब यी यसरी गरेर 11 वटा विषयहरू थियो। त्यो विषयहरूले चाहिँ दे स्टडी इन दैट एरिया, दे कलेक्टेड ऑल सजेशंस, रिकमेन्डेशंस फ्रम रेस्पेक्टिभ अदर parties, maybe individual experts, international, national, and to collect गरेर and they forwarded to the Constitutional Assembly, and Constitutional Assembly finally incorporated all these things in Constitution. These are the process. अब यो भयो तपाईको यो 6-7 वटा कुरो चाहिँ कुनै पनि राष्ट्रले नयाँ संविधान बनाउँदैछ, नयाँ ड्राफ्ट गर्दैछ भने यी कुरोहरु चाहिँ बेसिक थिङ हुन्छ। These are the sources of Constitution. So why Constitution drafting process is different than other lawmaking process, then you can understand here. Because at the present moment, we have a near about 325 acts. Many laws, even we lawyer, we don't know. I mean, तपाईं के भने कस्तो कस्तो कानुन छ भन्ने कुरोहरु चाहिँ लयरलाई पनि थाहा हुँदैन. When the issues is come out, then you have to be look for what kind of law are there. होला तपाई ट्याक्स को हेर्नुहुन्छ ला ट्याक्स मा जान्नुहुन्छ, तपाई इमिग्रेसन हेर्नुहुन्छ इमिग्रेसन जान्नुहुन्छ, तपाईले चाहिँ सिभिल प्रपर्टी सिभिल केसेस हेर्नुहुन्छ त्यहाँ होला, अथवा तपाई लिटिगेट हुनुहुन्छ लिटिगेसन को होला. Therefore, in the present context, I'm telling you, all lawyers may not know all things as experts. कसैलाई क्रिमिनल को राम्रो होला, कसैलाई चाहिँ तपाईको सिभिल प्रपर्टी को राम्रो होला, कसैलाई चाहिँ फ्यामिली को म्यारेज डिभोर्स तपाईको राम्रो होला. All lawyers, they can't know everything. त्यही भएर स्पेशलाइजेसन, what is your specialization in law भन्ने कुरो चाहिँ हुन्छ. So it means तपाईले बिस्तारै सिक्दै जानुहुन्छ. अब यो भइसकेपछि I'm going to another sources of types of constitution. Before I want to before we start with that discussion, do you have any questions regarding the sources of constitution making process?
Sir, I didn't understand the last point.
Which one last?
The thematic committees 14.
But look at it, there is a bracket in Nepal. You see?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. We drafted our existing constitution through the Constitutional Assembly, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then, अब यस्तो बनाउनको लागि त्यहाँनिर चाहिँ यो कुरोहरुलाई चाहिँ कसरी कलेक्ट गर्यो भन्नको लागि चाहिँ त्यहाँ सब्जेक्ट वाइज कमिटीहरु थियो. सब्जेक्ट वाइज कमिटी भन्नाले मैले के भने संविधान आफै पनि धेरै कुराहरु ल्याएर फिक्स गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ. पावर शेयरिङ, फर्मेसन, रेस्पोन्सिबिलिटी, फन्डामेन्टल राइट्स, डाइरेक्टिभ प्रिन्सिपल्स, रेमेडीज, अमेन्डमेन्ट प्रोसेस, these all things should be codified in one book. In one book. तर त्यो के भने हरेक सभासदले हरेक विषयमा हरेक क्षेत्रमा उलाई थाहा हुँदैन. तर त्यो थेमेटिक कमिटी भइदियो भने 2 वर्षसम्म उले चाहिँ त्यो थेमेटिक कमिटीमा चाहिँ के भने त्यो एरियामा चाहिँ they have the duty, responsibility to collect all information. मैले नेपालमा हाम्रो संविधान सभाको पछि हामी साइलेन्ट फिचरमा अलिक बढी पढ्छौं. यो नेपालमा चाहिँ 14 वटा थेमेटिक कमिटीहरुको विषयको, त्यसमध्ये 11 वटा चाहिँ विषयहरुमा थियो र 3 वटा चाहिँ क्यापेसिटी इन्हान्समेन्ट टु ड्राफ्टर्स टु आवर सीए मेम्बर्स. त्यसरी चाहिँ यो थेमेटिक कमिटीहरुले चाहिँ यो ओपिनियनहरु कलेक्ट गरेर राखेको थियो. जस्तो थेमेटिक कमिटीमा इन्टरनेशनल ओपिनियनको एक्सपर्टले आएर के भन्यो, पोलिटिकल एग्रीमेन्टको डकुमेन्ट कसरी आयो, तपाईको नजिरहरु कसरी हेर्यो, फन्डामेन्टल राइट्समा चाहिँ अदालतले के निर्णयहरु गरेको छ ती कसरी हेर्यो. These all things are collected or accomplished in that committee. हाम्रो नेपालमा चाहिँ यस्तो खालको थियो भनेर मैले सर्टमा मात्रै भनेको. We are going to discuss in next class little bit more about the silent feature of our constitution. Then you know more clearly about the thematic committee. Okay?
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Okay, then let's talk about the type of constitution. Okay, the constitution sometimes is a bit confused why they are dividing type of constitutions, why they are talking about the type of constitution. Basically, the constitution is the supreme and the fundamental and ground norms. Okay, but it has been defined based on the various grounds such as a power sharing, form of government, head of state, structure of government, etc. Okay. So why I'm talking with you, the type of constitution means many writers, they can express their opinion in different ways. Okay, many writers, they can put their stress. Okay, I believe this constitution is under this category. And they explain their opinion. But generally in terms of many writers, they agree. There are 5 types of constitution generally: written and non-written constitution. So probably we have been discussing these things many times. Written constitution, it should be written in the constitution, written and non-written. Okay, it has been prescribed all responsibility, power, accountability, remedies, process. These things are in the constitution. Then we can say this is the written constitution. When we talk about the rule of law, then don't leave space for adjudications. Don't leave for adjudication to particular institution. It should be written in the constitution. It means we call that the written constitution. Written constitution. Most of countries have a written constitution. Most of countries. अथवा संविधान प्रष्ट रूपमा कोडिफाइड गरेको छ, लिखित रूपमा छ, त्यहाँनिर चाहिँ सबै कुरोहरू व्यवस्था गरिदिएको छ भने त्यसलाई भनिन्छ लिखित संविधान. अथवा कानुनमा जे संविधानमा जे लेखेको छ अकॉर्डिंग टु त्यो So the written means they have a written constitution, they have a document, they believe that is their ground norms, they believe that is their foundation, they believe that the supreme law, apex law. Whatever you use the word, it means the same meaning, the constitution. So most of countries, they have a written constitution. Then easily power allocations among the state organization, executive, legislature, judiciary, including constitution bodies. Okay, suppose what kind of powers are going to exercise by your judiciary means you need to be, so look at this. We have a constitution, we have this number of judges and their tenure is this. They have served the age of 65 and we have a constitutional bench. We have this number of high courts and this number of district courts. These all things should be written in the constitution. Then we believe our judiciary is independence because constitution is the supreme document. Government, legislature, they shall not have power to amend the constitution until and unless they don't fulfill the procedure. So it means, you remember that yesterday we discussed about the Judiciary Act 1789. Adams amended and created some court and they appointed some judges, those who were in favor of them. So Marbury versus Madison case was there. So we can return because the court found that it had inconsistent, invalidated with the Supreme Clause. Supreme Clause one. We can use different words, but meaning is the same. About power allocations among the state organizations, executive, judiciary, legislature, including constitutional commissions. संवैधानिक आयोगहरू दे आर इन्डिपेन्डेन्ट डिस्पाइट दे आर अ पार्ट अफ एक्जिक्युटिभ जस्तो कन्स्टिट्युसन कमिसन्स होला अख्तियार दुरुपयोग अनुसन्धान मानव अधिकार आयोग महिला आयोग लोकसेवा आयोग अडिटर जेनरल एटर्नी जेनरल दे आर द कन्स्टिट्युसनल बडिज but what kind of powers they are going to exercise it should be written in the constitution. Therefore we can say they are the written constitution. Let's talk non-written constitution. Non-written means they have no single codified constitution. Unwritten means they have no single codified constitution. उनीहरुसँग एउटै मात्रै तपाईको किताब चाहिँ छैन यो चाहिँ हाम्रो कन्स्टिट्युसन भन्ने छैन but they have a constitutional laws. They have a constitutional laws. Look at this in the Great Britain. They have, I mean, those countries, Great Britain, New Zealand, Israel, Saudi Arabia, they don't have written constitution, but they have a constitutional laws. Here is the differences between constitution and constitutional laws. उनीहरुसँग एउटै दस्तावेजको संविधान चाहिँ छैन तर संविधानलाई परिचालन गर्ने खालको संवैधानिक कानुनहरु चाहिँ छ संवैधानिक कानुनहरु छ कसरी सरकार गठन गर्ने कसरी न्यायपालिका सञ्चालन गर्ने कसरी चाहिँ तपाईको नागरिकहरुको चाहिँ राइट प्रोटेक्ट गर्ने फर इन्स्टेन्स यु क्यान सी इन द ग्रेट ब्रिटेन द बिल अफ राइट्स द मैग्ना कार्टा द जुडिशियरी एक्ट द पार्लियामेन्ट्री एक्ट बेस्ड on it they can perform their duties but they don't have I mean the Great Britain she does not have a codified single documented constitution but the Great Britain has many constitutional laws. I told you Bill of Rights, how to protect citizens' rights. Magna Carta, okay, Magna Carta gave them people's empowerment, people's right. Judiciary Act, how to appoint judges, what are the terms and conditions of judges, and what kind of judges eligibility, what kind of qualifications for judges. Everything has been written in the Judiciary Act. Look at this, the Parliamentary Act. Okay, how you are going to elect the Prime Minister, and what is the role of the opposition leader, when and how they are going to conduct election. Everything has been written in the Parliamentary Act. अब नन रिटर्न भन्ने बित्तिकै उनीहरुकोमा लिखित केही पनि छैन ओरल मात्रै हो भन्ने चाहिँ होइन because I am telling these things expressed written by the experts. तर मैले तपाईलाई भन्नु पर्दाखेरि नन रिटर्न भन्ने कुरो के एउटा मात्रै कोडिफाइड संविधान छैन तर उनीहरुसँग संवैधानिक कानुनहरु छ संवैधानिक कानुनहरुको आधारमा चाहिँ उनीहरुले चाहिँ सरकार गठन गर्छ न्यायाधीश नियुक्ति गर्छ नागरिकहरुको अधिकारलाई संरक्षण गर्छ भने त्यसलाई चाहिँ तपाईको के भनिन्छ भने दे हैव अ कन्स्टिट्युसन लज but they don't have written constitution. Okay, I'm telling you these you can get all this information in everywhere. When you look at the type of constitution then they can get this information very easily. I'm just giving you very short information. त्यसरी गर्दाखेरि रिटर्नै छैन भन्ने होइन तर constitution law चाहिँ छैन constitution नै चाहिँ छैन तर they have a constitution laws. Based on it they can regulate their state, they can form their cabinet, they can appoint their judges, they can decide their cases. अनि त्यसरी नै नागरिकहरुको अधिकारहरु गरिन्छ भन्ने हुन्छ. Okay, you look at this rigid and flexible. It has been defined based on the amendment process of the constitution. Some constitutions are very rigid, some constitutions are very flexible, and based on it many constitution experts they define these countries constitution is flexible, these countries constitution is rigid. So definitely Indian constitution is very flexible, our constitution is mixed approaches, and the American constitution is very rigid. Usually when you are going to amend your constitution then there are these four major processes are practices in the world: simple majority, 2/3 majority, 1/4 majority, and the referendum. Okay, अथवा तपाईको संविधानको वर्गीकरण गर्दा लिखित र अलिखित भनिन्छ त्यसै गरेर तपाईको रिजिड र फ्लेक्सिबल भनेको लचिलो र के भन्छ रिजिडलाई तपाईको ड्युरिङ द एमेन्डमेन्ट प्रोसेस अलिक कठोर प्रकारको संविधान भनेर भनिन्छ त्यसमा चाहिँ चलेको चाहिँ के छ भने सिम्पल मेजोरिटी 2/3 मेजोरिटी 1/4 मेजोरिटी एन्ड रिफरेन्डम भन्ने कुरो छ अब हरेक लेखकले के भन्छ भने अमेरिकन कन्स्टिट्युसन रिजिड छ इन्डियन कन्स्टिट्युसन फ्लेक्सिबल छ अब ब्रिटेनमा त कन्स्टिट्युसन छैन then they can explain what kind of constitution in Great Britain. But when we talk in our constitution, then we can say this is the mixed model, mixed approaches. Okay, and if you want to know about what kind of process we have, then you can see in Article 274. I have already mentioned on slide. 274 मा संविधान संशोधनको प्रक्रियाहरू छन् त्यसपछि हामी एकदिन छलफल गर्छौं but not today. But usually in the world these 4 types of provisions are applicable: simple majority, 2/3 majority, 1/4 majority, and referendum. So simple majority is under the flexible, and 2/3 is also we call as the flexible. In India, they can amend the constitution in some issues with certain simple majority and some issues with 2/3 majority in India. Therefore, many writers, they prefer Indian constitution is flexible. When you see in the American constitution, then 1/4 majority. Then 1/4 majority. And in some countries, including in our context, some issues are not amended by any of these 3 ways, but we need to be follow the referendum. By referendum, हाम्रोमा पनि केही संविधान संशोधन गर्नु पर्यो केही कुरोहरु गर्नु पर्यो भने we have that provision. You can see in Article 274. यसले गर्दाखेरि यी 4 वटा मोडलहरुमा छन् माथिल्लो दुईटालाई सिम्पल र 2/3 मेजोरिटीलाई चाहिँ फ्लेक्सिबल नै मान्छन् 1/4 र रिफरेन्डमलाई चाहिँ रिजिड मान्छ अब हाम्रोमा चाहिँ सिम्पल मेजोरिटी पनि छ 2/3 मेजोरिटी पनि छ र रिफरेन्डम पनि छ हाम्रोमा चाहिँ हामी त्यो तीनटा विधिबाट कन्स्टिट्युसनलाई एमेन्डमेन्ट गर्न सकिन्छ and if you want to know then you can see in Article 274 यहाँनिर व्यवस्था छ अब यसरी पनि लेखकहरुले चाहिँ रिजिड र फ्लेक्सिबल संविधान भनेर they can explain. Okay, similarly let's go federal and unitary constitution. This is the structure of power, division of power, federal constitution or unitary constitution अथवा संघीय संविधान हो कि एकात्मक संविधान हो the structure of form of government, structure of form of government. Nepal, US, India, Malaysia, Germany, Canada, etc. altogether 26 countries they have adopted federal constitution. Okay, तिनीहरुले चाहिँ संघीय प्रणालीको संविधान छ उनीहरुकोमा बेसिक कुरो चाहिँ के भने this is the foundation thing is sharing of power. Sharing of power कस्तो खालको form of government छ मैले भने नेपाल बंगलादेश नेपाल इन्डिया मलेसिया तपाईको पाकिस्तान जर्मन तपाईको नाइजेरिया क्यानाडा US Brazil they have a federal constitution. Okay, and the rest of other countries altogether 26 countries they have adopted federal constitution. And the rest of countries, maybe probably 160 countries, they have a unitary system and they can adopt centralizations of power. Okay? So, अब यहाँनिर explanation गर्दाखेरि power sharing, divisions of power with different level, particularly executive, legislative, including judiciary power, structure of power sharing. यो चाहिँ तपाईं के भन्ने federal structure भनिन्छ. If you have a two executive bodies in the same territory, if you have a two law-making power institution in the same territory, if you have a two kind of judiciary system in the same territory, then you are under the federal system. अथवा कसरी चाहिँ शक्ति विभाजन हो भन्ने कुरो चाहिँ के नि एउटै क्षेत्रमा एउटै पोलिटिकल संरचना भित्र तपाईको दुई प्रकारको कार्यपालिका दुई भन्दा बढी कार्यपालिका दुई भन्दा बढी व्यवस्थापिका दुई भन्दा बढी न्यायपालिकाहरुको संरचना छ भने त्यसलाई फेडरल सिस्टम भनिन्छ भनेर भन्छन्. For instance, we have 3 types of executives. we have three types of legislatures: local authorities, provincial authorities, and the center. We have a central government, provincial government, local government. Similarly, we have a local parliament, provincial parliament, and local parliament. In certain areas, they have a right to make a law. In certain areas, whatever they receive laws from their respective lawmakers, they can enforce in their territories. अथवा कार्यपालिका दुईटा छ, दुईटा भन्दा बढी, दुईटा वा दुईटा भन्दा बढी, व्यवस्थापिका दुईटा वा दुईटा भन्दा बढी छ भने त्यसलाई चाहिँ फेडरल सिस्टम भनेर भनिन्छ। जस्तो हाम्रोमा तीन प्रकारको छ। स्थानीय निकायलाई कानुन बनाउने अधिकार छ, स्थानीय निकायलाई त्यो कानुनहरू कार्यान्वयन गर्ने अधिकार छ, प्रदेश निकायलाई कानुन बनाउने अधिकार छ, प्रदेश निकायहरूमा सरकार छन्, सरकारले त्यो केन्द्रको कानुन र तपाईको प्रदेशले बनाएको कानुनहरू कार्यान्वयन गर्ने अधिकार छ। त्यस्तै गरेर हाम्रो फेडरल गभर्नमेन्ट छ, हाम्रो सेन्ट्रल गभर्नमेन्ट छ, सेन्ट्रल ल मेकर्सहरू छ, उनीहरूले कानुन बनाएर कानुन इन्फोर्स गर्न सक्छन्। अब हाम्रोमा चाहिँ संयोगवश जुडिसियरी इज आवर युनिटरी सिस्टम, तर धेरैवटा कन्ट्रिजहरूमा जसले चाहिँ फेडरल सिस्टम एडप्ट गरेको छ, दे हेभ द टु टाइप्स अफ जुडिसियरी अल्सो. Judiciary systems is also there. In USA, they have a two types of judiciary system. Every state, they have their own judiciary system, and federal, they have also separate judiciary system. त्यो कुन मुद्दा कहाँ जाने भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ अलग अलग छ। त्यसरी चाहिँ तपाईको एउटै टेरिटोरीमा एउटै संविधान भित्र दुईटा कार्यपालिका, दुईटा व्यवस्थापिका, दुईटा न्यायपालिकाहरू गठन गरेका छ भने त्यसलाई चाहिँ तपाईको we can understand federal constitution. Federal constitution. Then there is a power sharing between two executives or more than two executives. If there is a power sharing between two or more lawmakers, the power to sharing गर्नु पर्यो। त्यो power sharing गर्ने क्रममा केन्द्रले बनाएको कानुनलाई चाहिँ त्यो power sharing भनिदैन। केन्द्रले कानुन बनाएर सबै अथोरिटीलाई सबोर्डिनेटलाई okay you can enforce these things भन्ने कुरो चाहिँ it is not called power sharing. तर power sharing भनेको चाहिँ okay we give this authority, you can make a law and enforce in their territory, in your territory. Okay, it has been guaranteed in constitution, it has conferred in constitution, therefore you are independent, you are autonomous, you can exercise your power according to constitution. Then we call that's the federal system. अब हाम्रोमा चाहिँ के छ भने प्रदेशले कुन कुन क्षेत्रमा कानुन बनाउन सक्छ, प्रान्त स्थानीय निकायले कुन कुन क्षेत्रमा कानुन बनाउन सक्छ भन्ने कुरो चाहिँ we have been written in our constitution. So it means they can exercise their power without any interference by the center, by the province. I'm talking about the local authority. Maybe there are some provisions, concurrent provisions. Concurrent भनेको चाहिँ समसामयिक अथवा दुईटा मिलेर गर्नुपर्ने concurrent powers are also there. Absolute power, concurrent power. केही चाहिँ कुनै पनि हस्तक्षेप बिना गर्नु कानुन बनाएर कानुन गर्नुपर्ने, कुनै चाहिँ दुईटा or more than two legislature, they need to be sit together and they make a law. Concurrent भनिन्छ त्यसलाई, त्यस्तो खालको चाहिँ फेडरल भनिन्छ। अब युनिटरी भनेको चाहिँ के हो भन्ने सन्दर्भमा चाहिँ unitary constitution means power remains at the center or centralization. There are no two executive, no two parliament and other constitution bodies. A large number of countries still follow unitary constitution. Nepal used to unitary system, but since 2015 has been adopted federal constitution. एउटा मात्रै कार्यपालिका छ, एउटा मात्रै व्यवस्थापिका छ, त्यहाँ चाहिँ संवैधानिक बडीहरू अलग अलग छैन। जस्तै तपाईको के छ नि प्रदेशमा लोकसेवा आयोग छुट्टै गठन गरेको छ, लोकसेवाले आफ्नो त्यो प्रदेशलाई चाहिने मेन पावरहरू गर्न सक्छ, केन्द्रले आफै लोकसेवा आयोग छ, लोकसेवा आयोगले जाँच लिन सक्छ गर्छ भने look at this constitution bodies also separate state by the laws. अब युनिटरीमा चाहिँ त्यस्तो अलग छैन। तपाईको एउटै मात्र कार्यपालिका छ, एउटै मात्र व्यवस्थापिका छ, एउटै मात्र कन्स्टिट्युसन बडी छ भने त्यसलाई सिम्पली आई एम टकिङ विथ यू अबाउट सिम्पल प्रिन्सिपल then we call that the unitary constitution, unitary system or centralization, power to centralization. Why I'm giving this example means I mean, when you look at the type of constitution, then many writers, they agreed in this way. But they have a different opinion. They can explain about their country's experience, about their experience, but they agree. Written and non-written constitution, federal and unitary constitution, rigid and flexible constitution. There are more tools I'm going to tell you. त्यसरी चाहिँ एकात्मक र संघात्मक संविधानहरू हुन्छ भन्ने कुराहरू गरेका छ. Okay, similarly, let's go ahead. Then after, okay, republican and monarchy. Look at this. Republican and monarchy. Okay, it has been defined based on the head of state. Head of state. Okay, either head of state is king or the republican means president. So there is a difference between head of government and head of state. Okay, but in some countries, the head of government is the head of state. In some countries, why I'm telling you there is a difference between head of state and head of government, it means government and head of states, the head are appointed in different ways. Head of government means head of executive, and the head of state means this is the symbol of state. Who is the chief of your state means either monarchy or either president. Therefore, many writers, they don't prefer president because sometimes president is also head of state, because the head of government as well as head of state. For instance, look at in the US, they don't have head of state, but they have the president who is the head of government as well as head of state. अथवा तपाईं के भने धेरै राइटरहरूले प्रेसिडेन्ट्स किन लेखेको छैनन् भन्दाखेरि रिपब्लिकन मात्र किन लेख्छन् भन्दाखेरि कुनै कुनै कन्ट्रीहरुमा चाहिँ सेरेमोनियल तपाईको हेड अफ स्टेट छैनन्, हेड अफ गभर्नमेन्ट नै लाई नै हेड अफ स्टेट मानेका छन्. जस्तो I gave you example in the US, president is the head of state as well as head of government. But simply we can understand their constitution is based on republican. Or monarchy means, you know, so what is monarchy means? So there is a difference between head of government and head of state. I told you, monarchy, it has been inherited or transformed generation to generation. It can inherit by birth, monarchy. Particularly in some countries, in Middle East, in some countries in Europe, in Asia, such as Thailand, Borneo, Malaysia, Japan, and in Europe, you can see Denmark, you can see England, Sweden, they have the monarchy. This monarchy is the symbol of their unity of the state, and they call this the head of state, not the head of government. Okay, head of government, head of state. In Middle East, I told you, in Asia you can see Thailand, Japan, Malaysia, Brunei. Similarly, in the Middle East, they still have the kingdom. Then they are the head of state. And the head of government, some are elected and some are appointed by the head of state. Appointed. In Middle East, most of head of governments are appointed by the head of state. Okay, so Republican and monarchy. Monarchy, I have just finished, I have just talked with you monarchy. Now, what is the Republican? Yeah. Republican constitution usually through elected representatives of people or by cup of power, autocratic, cup of power, coup of power. Either your president or Republican, when you are under the Republican and the head of state is elected by people directly or indirectly with by the representative of the people in the Republican model, or by another model is Republican, the capture the power and declare himself or herself, I am the head of the state. I am the head of the state. Coup or capture the power. I mean, तपाईं के भने अटोक्रेटिक भने कसैले शक्ति संघर्ष गरेर इलेक्सन नभइकन जनताको रिप्रेजेन्ट नगरिकन कुनै व्यक्तिले चाहिँ म चाहिँ यो राज्यको प्रमुख हुँ भनेर भन्छ भने अटोक्रेटिक रिपब्लिकन भनेर भनिन्छ भन्नेहरु छ. Even people, they don't know who is he or who is him, but he declared himself, I am the head of the state, as well as I am the head of government. So त्यसो बेला चाहिँ कु गरेर आएको अथवा तपाईको संघर्ष गरेर रेबिलियन्स ग्रुपहरुले क्याप्चर गरेको कुरोहरु भने त्यसरी पनि रिपब्लिकन हुन सक्छ. त्यसको अझै एक्सप्लेनेशन्स के छ भने इलेक्शन्स आइदर डाइरेक्ट पिपल भोट और इनडाइरेक्ट भोट बाइ रिप्रेजेन्टेटिभ अफ पिपल, त्यो एउटा मोडल भयो रिपब्लिकन इन्क्लुडिङ डेमोक्रेटिक प्रोसेस. रिलिजियस ग्रुप अल्सो सेलेक्ट अ प्रेसिडेन्ट और अ क्याडर अफ पार्टी. धार्मिक व्यक्तिहरुले पनि धार्मिकको ठूल मान्ने गुन्ने व्यक्तिहरुलाई हेड अफ स्टेटको रूपमा राख्ने चलनहरु छ. जस्तै तपाईको इरानमा यो मुस्लिम कन्ट्रीहरुमा चाहिँ अहिले पनि धार्मिक त्यो कमिटी हुन्छ. धार्मिक समूहले चाहिँ दे क्यान इलेक्टेड देयर हेड अफ स्टेट. अनि तपाईको अर्को चाहिँ क्याडर अफ पार्टी. क्याडर अफ पार्टी, लुक एट इन चाइना, सी जिनपिङ इज head of the Communist Party, and he hold the power of head of state, cadres of the party. यसरी पनि रिपब्लिकन को विभिन्न मोडलहरु त्यो तपाईले पाउन सक्नुहुन्छ. Many writers they agree there is a republican and monarchical constitution as well. यसरी रिपब्लिकन र मोनार्कियल कन्स्टिट्युसन पनि भनेर टाइप्स अफ कन्स्टिट्युसन अफ मोनार्कीमा गरेका छन्. अब लास्ट एउटा होला जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई. ओके, no, we have already discussed these things. It's a republican monarchy. Okay, separated power or fused power भन्ने एउटा चाहिँ यो तपाईको छ. मैले बुझाउँदै छु कि म मात्र आफै बोलिराखेको छु. आई एम नट स्योर.
बुझिरहेको छु सर.
बुझिरहेको सर.
ओके, जस्तो के भने यो टाइप्स अफ कन्स्टिट्युसनमा चाहिँ विभिन्न लेखकहरुको चाहिँ सहमत के छ भने रिटर्न, अनरिटर्न, फेडरल, युनिटरी, मोनार्की, रिपब्लिकन अनि तपाईको यी मोडल सबै लेखकहरुको चाहिँ सहमत छ. कुनै जहाँ पनि तपाईले टाइप्स अफ कन्स्टिट्युसन हेर्नुभयो भने तिनीहरुले चाहिँ यो कुरोहरु गर्छ. त्यसले गर्दाखेरि आई डोन्ट थिंक we need to be dig out more and more informations, but you need to be manage your time and read out this information. You can easily get all these things. Okay, so separated power and fused power भन्ने चाहिँ यो तपाईको के भने यो हिलरी बर्नार्डले चाहिँ तपाईले लेखेको छ यो टाइप्स अफ कन्स्टिट्युसनमा. उले चाहिँ के गर्छ भने सेपरेटेड पावर मीन्स सेपरेटेड or fully enforced constitutionalism, rule of law, ensure fundamental rights, check and balance, simply power confers according to law. यो हिलरी बर्नार्डको पुस्तकमा छ सेपरेटेड पावर एन्ड फ्युज्ड पावर टाइप अफ कन्स्टिट्युसन भन्ने चाहिँ. ही डजन्ट केयर अबाउट द मोनार्की होस् कि फेडरल होस् कि अनि तपाईको युनिटरी होस् कि रिटर्न होस् कि नन रिटर्न होस्, तर उले चाहिँ के भन्छन् सेपरेटेड पावर कन्स्टिट्युसन मिन्स दिस इज द रूल अफ ल, दिस इज द इन्फोर्स कन्स्टिट्युसनलिजम, दिस इज द एन्स्योर फन्डामेन्टल राइट्स, पिपल आर ह्याप्पी, एभ्री गभर्नमेन्ट, लेजिस्लेचर एन्ड जुडिसियरी you can check and balance, they can check and balance each other. Simply power confer according to जहाँ जहाँ चाहिँ तपाईको संविधानवादहरु कार्यान्वयन छ, जहाँ चाहिँ विधिको शासन छ, जहाँ चाहिँ नागरिकहरुको मौलिक अधिकारको संरक्षण छ, जहाँ चाहिँ एकले अर्कालाई चेक एन्ड ब्यालेन्स गर्छ, अथवा जहाँ चाहिँ कानुनले नै त्यो अधिकारहरु प्रति आयोजित गरिदिएको छ, त्यस्तोलाई चाहिँ सेपरेटेड पावर कन्स्टिट्युसन भनिन्छ अथवा तपाईको मोर डेमोक्रेटिक कन्स्टिट्युसन भनेर भनिन्छ भन्ने कुरो छ। जस्तै तपाईको एउटा एक्जाम्पल लिउँ, राजतन्त्र हुँदैमा अटोक्रेटिक हुँदैन, रिपब्लिकन हुँदैमा त्यहाँ प्रजातन्त्र हुन्छ भन्ने हुँदैन। ओके, राजतन्त्रमा चाहिँ तपाईको अटोक्रेटिक हुन्छ भन्ने पनि हुँदैन, राजतन्त्र अल्सो इन डेमोक्रेटिक वेमा बन्न सक्छ, रिपब्लिकन हुने बित्तिकै त्यहाँनिर चाहिँ नागरिकहरूको सर्वे सर्वा हुन्छ भन्ने पनि हुँदैन। रिपब्लिकन हुने बित्तिकै त्यहाँ पनि डिक्टेटरसिप फन्डामेन्टलिस्टसिप हुन सक्छ, त्यहाँनिर रुल अफ ल रहनु सक्छ। त्यसरी नै युनिटेरियन संघात्मक जे भने पनि यो सेपरेटेड पावर छैन भने त्यो जस्तो सुकै भए पनि दिस इज द autocratic constitution. Either they follow unitary or follow federal, or also it does not make any sense. Either they have a return or non-return if they don't have separations of power, separated power, or they don't have constitutionalism, they don't have rule of law, they don't have fundamental rights protection to concerned citizen people. त्यसले गर्दाखेरि यो चाहिँ हिलारी बर्नरले गर्छ सेपरेटेड पावर एन्ड फ्युज पावर भनेको चाहिँ सबै शक्ति एकै ठाउँमा राख्ने। फ्युज पावर, आई एम एभ्रिथिङ, आई एम द सोर्स अफ कन्स्टिट्युसन, I am the source of executive, I am the source of legislature. No one can challenge my authority because I received this power from the God, from the fundamentalist, I mean from this way. The fused power, the fused constitution means centralization of all power at the center and particularly one institution. There is no separation of power, autocratic, feudalist, fundamentalist. अथवा त्यहाँ कुनै संविधानले चाहिँ के भने शक्तिको स्रोत जनता हो भन्ने लेख्नु पर्ने ठाउँमा शक्तिको स्रोत चाहिँ राजतन्त्र हो भनेर लेख्यो, शक्तिको स्रोत भनेको चाहिँ अल्लाह हो भनेर लेख्यो भने त्यसलाई चाहिँ फ्युज्ड पावर कन्स्टिट्युसन भनिन्छ। जस्तो हाम्रो कन्स्टिट्युसनमा शक्तिको स्रोत भनेको चाहिँ जनता हो, नेपाली जनता हो भन्ने छ, अमेरिकन कन्स्टिट्युसनमा त्यही छ, इन्डियन कन्स्टिट्युसन वी पिपुल, सरी इन्डियन कन्स्टिट्युसनमा त्यही छ। अब कतिवटा कन्स्टिट्युसन शक्तिको स्रोत भनेको चाहिँ राज संस्था हो, शक्तिको स्रोत भनेको चाहिँ तपाईको इस्लाम धर्म हो, शक्तिको स्रोत भनेको चाहिँ पार्टीको निर्णय हो भन्ने छ भने त्यसलाई चाहिँ फ्युज्ड कन्स्टिट्युसन अथवा देयर इज नो सेपरेसन अफ पावर, द्याट इज द फ्युज्ड पावर, ऑल पावर इज सेन्ट्रलाइज्ड एट द वान पर्सन अर इन द इन्स्टिट्युसन भन्ने छ भने त्यसलाई चाहिँ फ्युज्ड कन्स्टिट्युसन पावर कन्स्टिट्युसन भनेर भनिन्छ भन्ने चाहिँ हिलारी बर्नरको भनाइ हो। अब तपाईको इट डिपेन्ड्स अन political ideology as what type of political system remains in the country can determine form of government, type of constitution, and either centralization with autocratic or democratic system. तपाईको त्यो कन्ट्रीको अथवा त्यो कन्स्टिट्युसनको आइडियोलोजी भनेको त्यो कन्ट्रीको आइडियोलोजी कुन मोडलमा छ भन्ने कुरो डिटरमाइन गर्छ। त्यहाँको कन्स्टिट्युसन कस्तो हो, सेपरेटेड हो कि फ्युज्ड हो कि भन्ने कुरो चाहिँ डिटरमाइन गर्छ भन्ने चाहिँ त्यो तपाईको हिलारी बर्नार्डको छ। यसरी चाहिँ क्लासिफिकेसन गरेको छ। अथवा मैले सार संक्षेपमा भन्नु पर्दाखेरि यो सेपरेटेड र फ्युज पावरमा चाहिँ तपाईको जुनसुकै मोडलको कन्स्टिट्युसन भए पनि तपाईको संविधानले चाहिँ त्यो संविधानवादलाई विधिको शासनलाई अंगीकार गरेको छ कि छैन भन्ने एउटा मोडल हो। तपाई रिपब्लिकनमा, मोनार्कीमा, रिजिडमा, फ्लेक्सिबलमा, रिटर्नमा, अनरिटर्नमा जस्तो संविधानमा रहनु भएको भए पनि major concern is either your constitution has accepted principles of separation of power, rule of law, constitutionalism, and your constitution has guaranteed you a fundamental rights, and your judiciary is independence. They can able to review, judicial review, I mean the decision of the executive and the acts of the made by parliament. The judiciary shall have authority or not. त्यो कुरो चाहिँ मेजर कुरो हुन्छ। त्यसलाई चाहिँ सेपरेटेड पावर भनेर भन्छन्। फ्युज पावर भनेको चाहिँ अटोक्रेटिक, फ्युडलिस्ट है, फ्युडलिस्ट, फन्डामेन्टलिस्ट अथवा एभ्रिथिङ इज मी, एभ्रिथिङ इज दैट इन्स्टिट्युसन, सोर्सेस अफ एक्जिक्युटिभ, सोर्सेस अफ योर फ्रीडम, सोर्सेस अफ ल मेकिङ पावर, इट रिमेन्स टु दिस इन्स्टिट्युसन भन्ने भयो भने त्यसलाई चाहिँ फ्युज्ड पावर कन्स्टिट्युसन भनेर भनिन्छ भन्ने कुरो चाहिँ गरेको छ। यसरी चाहिँ तपाईको संविधानको क्लासिफिकेसन गरेको पाइन्छ। अब हामी नेक्स्ट क्लासमा चाहिँ साइलेन्ट फिचर्स अफ द कन्स्टिट्युसन 2015 र हिस्टोरिकल डेभलपमेन्ट अफ कन्स्टिट्युसन अफ नेपाल भनेर दुईटा छलफल गर्छौँ। र आजकोलाई चाहिँ यहाँ मैले स्टप गर्नुभन्दा पहिला आई एम आस्किङ टु स्टुडेन्ट्स इफ यु हेभ एनी क्वेसन्स Please let me know. We have 5 minutes. I'm asking to students. केही छ भाइहरुको बहिनीहरुको?
केही छैन सर।
अलिअलि क्वेसन त बनाउनु पर्यो, शेयर गर्नु पर्यो स्टुडेन्ट्स हो। ल स्टुडेन्ट साइलेन्ट बस्यो भने त लयर नै भएन नि।
हुन्छ खासै आज यसो सोध्न मिल्ने नै केही छैन रहेछ सर, नभए त सोधिन्थ्यो।
सरले सबै करेक्सन जस्तो लाग्यो आजलाई अनि त्यही भएर।
कसो लाग्यो अरे?
हजुरले सबै कभर गरिदिइसकेछ सर, त्यही भएर क्वेसन नै छैन भने।
ए होइन, यतिमै त लिमिटेसन हुँदैन, यसलाई चाहिँ बढाउनु पर्छ। दिस इज द ओन्ली फाउन्डेसन। You need to be explained. You need to be explained by yourself. You need to be look for many sources. तपाईहरुकै जिम्मामा हो। म त I'm just giving you glimpse, just short information. Okay, then we are going to stop here.
Okay, sir.
हुन्छ सर।
Okay, thank you to everyone. Have a good day. Bye bye.
Thank you sir. Thank you sir. You too sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bye bye sir.
Ayush, hi Ayush.
Nice.
Man, I keep on balling.
Thank you, Alsha.
Congrats, है
Congrats है तिम्रो पनि
के कम्पिटिसन गर्नु हैन
ल 3 2 1 मा जाउँ न त
ल
ल 3 2 1 ल है ल 3 1
Wait, this is recording.
ए okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Whoever watching the recording, we're so sorry. Yeah,
Okay, now let's leave for real, eh?
let's leave for real.
3
Two.
3 1 go. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'll let you have this one. Bye.
Bye. I don't know why this is about people checking the recording like, let me just practice this.
Okay, ल म गएँ है
ल म पनि अब गएँ तिमीलाई पछि
ल
ल
ल
and we go on forever.
Mm.
Duita consecutive Google.